Welcome back to Inside the World of Box Lacrosse. Adam Levy, Steven Stamp, Greg Beecher in the background there. We are back with another segment of box players in the NCAA playing this NCAA season. These are going to be future NLLers, a lot of these guys, and Stamper being one of the leading draft experts for the NLL. He is the guy that you want to hear from when looking at some of these young and upcoming talents. I've been trying my best to dive into the field game and get interested in some of these guys that are up and coming, because there are so many more Canadians who are playing the college game, which has been so exciting. And I know last week we broke down some of the top 20 guys, and we've got some more top 20 schools for you. So I'll start with Cornell. Stamper, one of the top programs in the country right now. Many people think that they could possibly contend for a title this season. So many great Canadian talents. I'll start with the name Willem Firth, who you know quite well. Other guys on there, Bowie Horsman, Jackson Smart, and then two seniors in Rory Graham and Andrew Dalton, also on that club. What can you say about those guys? I imagine you're going to start with Willem.
Yeah, you got to start with Willem Firth. I mean, he's maybe the top prospect over the next two drafts, and that's really saying something because these are two awesome drafts, right? But I mean, Willem Firth, he just, nobody does it quite like him in the Ontario Junior League. Joey Spallina led the league last year in scoring when you include the playoffs. In the regular season, if you include the points everyone actually got, then Willem Firth led the way. And I do think that those Beach's points are going to be returned to the kids at some point. I think they're going to do the right thing. But anyway, he's amazing. He's so skilled. He's so smart. I mean, I'm not going to compare anyone to Jeff Teat because that's an awfully high bar to set. But, you could if you wanted to, right? Like he's really good.
And also, Willem had told me, I believe it was last summer, that, one of the reasons he decided to go to Cornell was because of Jeff and all he had done there. He's looked up to Jeff, and, so it's interesting that you bring up that comparison. I do want to bring up one guy, and let me actually get up my quote here from Logan Schuss, who is now the head coach of the Delta Islanders, the junior Islanders. Because at Harvard, there is a kid named Jared Masnick, who Logan had high praise for. I'll read the quote directly from you. His name doesn't get brought up enough. He is a complete athlete who has the ability to take over games when he wants to. His size and speed, along with his scoring ability from both inside and outside, makes it extremely hard to defend. 100% future NLL and PLL player in my mind. So huge props for Jared, who is a freshman at Harvard University. So congrats on getting into Harvard. We've seen some Princeton guys like Zach Currier. And I have to say one thing, and I'd love to hear your comment on this, Stamper. When I went to the Harvard website and went to go to the rosters, they have something that a broadcaster like yourself would love. They had the players pronounce their own name, and you could click the ear and hear it.
So Virginia does that as well. You have, it's like a 5-second clip, right? They say their name and I think they say where they're from, hometown. I absolutely love it. I've been advocating with the NLL to do that for a few years. And I think it might happen, actually, because I think I might have gotten in the right ear to make it happen. Because my thought is, you're doing headshots at the beginning of every season, right? Somebody's there with a camera. I'm pretty sure the camera has video or at least audio. You could just record while you're taking the headshot, take 5 seconds, record them saying their name, make it available. Then you don't have things like, I'm going to cop a mea culpa here and say when we called Calgary at Ottawa, we pronounced Justin Inaccio's name wrong because I couldn't go to shoot around. I asked my color commentator, Jason Tosse, it's his first game. I said, hey, can you go talk to Justin, just make sure we have the name right. And he sent me an email, said, hey, yeah, straight from, I see the name Jay, and it's just like pistachio. So say Inacio. And I was like, okay, there you go. And then I went after and realized that he talked to Josh Sanderson. You never ask the coach. If you went with the coaches, the league would have kept calling Nick Bielich, Nick Billick. Because Derek Keenan thought, I would talk to Derek Keenan before a game on the bench and said, how do you pronounce number 79's name? He's like, Billick? I'm like, I don't think so, Jammer. And he said, well, call him over. He's like, he's literally right there. He's like, Blixie, come here. He said, how'd you pronounce your name? And Nick says, Bielich.
Yep.
He's like, what? Come on. So the same, like it's Inacio, and no shade on Shooter because coaches often, no, they're just calling him. I know what they call Justin Inacio, what his nickname is, but that's usually what they call them.
Yep.
They have enough to deal with without knowing all the pronunciations. So
Yeah.
yeah, but anyway, what was the question?
Oh, I was just getting your opinion on the
Oh, I love it.
fact that they, yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
Uh,
Who's
but
the
yeah,
head coach at Cornell?
Connor Busick.
Yes, that's right. He played for Toronto, right? They brought him in with Schreiber and McCardle, Kieran McCardle. He was the third of those three Americans that came in. Schreiber collected immediately. McCardle took a bit, played fairly well. Busick, he just didn't catch on, but yeah, terrific player, terrific field player. Didn't quite catch in box, which is another whole thing. It's Vince, Josh. It's Vince. Oh
uh, and so transitioning away from
my God.
pronunciations
Yes.
and Connor, who, by the way, props to Connor also for being one of the head coaches in the NCAA who is really always supporting box.
Yeah.
Sharing box content, talking about how valuable box lacrosse is. You've seen this increased in a lot of coaches around the NCAA, so that's great to see. So great that Connor's doing that. Moving now on to Georgetown down in the Washington, D.C. area.
Alma mater of Brody Merrill.
Yeah, exactly. And you've got two guys there who are going to be future NLLers who are playing together in Ty Banks and Lucas Dudemain. What can you say about those two? And did I pronounce Dudemain correctly?
Yeah, I think that was really good on Dudemain. He actually played at the Worlds in Utica for, who did he play for?
I
Italy?
think it was Italy.
I think it was Italy. White jerseys with the blue. Yeah, he was awesome there. He's very good. I mean, yeah, he's got quite a future. But Ty Banks is special. It's funny because Tino Farah, one of our friends who does a lot of announcing and shows and things, and he calls a ton of BC Junior A games. So I was working on some prospect stuff, and I like to pick the brains of people I respect. So I reached out to Tino and said, "Hey, I'm looking at doing this. I think it was last year when I did my 10 interesting prospects to watch." And I said, I'm trying. I want to have at least one defender. I like this Ty Banks kid. Am I right? And he was like, "Yes, he is something else. He is a great player. We really saw it last year with the Minto run. I think Banks is a D transition player. So solid, so athletic. Yeah, I think I'm really high on Banks. You're gonna see, I do have my stories coming out with the intriguing prospects for the next 4 drafts. The first one came out last week. The next one's coming out tomorrow. And when it's time, you're going to see Ty Banks in that list. A little teaser. Spoiler alert: the Ty Banks will be in that group.
Yeah, I mean, and he was solid, if I'm correct, obviously in that Minto Cup run, and obviously with Jack
Oh
Caskey
yeah.
between the pipes. But that Coquitlam defense with Pat Coyle there behind the bench, I mean that is a as close to a grown man's defense as you can get, at least out in the West Coast. So
Ramo Shinato and Robbie Turpin. Like, oh, they're good. Connor Knock. He's another kid coming up in a couple of years who
yeah,
really, he might be this year. Did he? Yeah, he came out last week in the 25 prospects to watch, right? 2025. Yeah, Connor Knox really something. One of the and having Pat Coyle coaching your team, that can only help, right? One of the great defenders of all time, and he's a great coach.
And just as a kind of a foreshadowing, I mean, I think that this summer again in the juniors, with some of the teams that are being built, whether it's Orangeville or
St. Catharines.
Yep, St. Catharines. Coquitlam is going for another run. They are not going to stop trying to build and be successful. I think it's going to be an interesting summer where teams are still considering making a lot of significant moves that we'll be hearing about within the next couple months. Just finally for you, there was an interesting battle, a top 20 battle between UNC, who I know Dan Arestia, one of the leading college analysts in the entire world when it comes to lacrosse. He was saying on his new show with Jonathan Donville that he thinks that UNC is one of the top programs that really need to step up right now, and this is their moment to shine. Ty English is on that team, and they were facing Michigan, who is another top program, and they have a guy who had his best summer in the juniors last year in Nick Rude. Again, correct me on the pronunciation, but and so that was an interesting battle. UNC ended up winning 15-6 in that one. UNC is off to a great start with Dave Petramala, who did also play in the NLL back in the day.
There you go.
And so that was an interesting battle. But what can you just quickly say about those two before we move on?
Yeah, I mean, who was the first one?
Ty English.
Oh, Ty English is really good. I mean, there's a whole bunch of good English players. I think he might be the best of them. Really good D transition player, right? In box, is he a midi? I assume in field.
I believe so, but I'd have to check.
I'd have him as a two-way midi if it was me. But I mean, just based on his style of play, I think he's awesome. And yeah, he's a very good player. I mean, there's Brooks is also coming along. Obviously, Sam's been drafted. I think they're one of those talented families. And on the other side, in Michigan, Nicholas Rude. Yeah, just you can remember his name because his dad is Bobby Roode, the pro wrestler.
Mm-hmm. Really?
Yeah, very close friends with Tracy Kelusky.
Okay.
So Bobby would be at a bunch of games, and then of course with Nick coming up. Nick Rude is really good. He and DJ Clark, who we talked about last week, they're the two righties about the same age with the junior Lakers, and they are dynamite. They both have another couple of years of junior, I think, at least one more, I think maybe two more, and you really see players, I think, thrive at that point. But Nicholas Rude is a very good young player, solid, smart, physical, very skilled.
And you were right about Ty. He is a midfielder and has even played on some of the defensive units there. So
there you go.
Very spot on. And that is why you do what you do, and you are considered a draft expert. So there you go.
So quick question to sorry to interrupt here, but so with that St. Catharines team, isn't that where Chase Cogan's playing? And there's another kid from Onondaga too, right?
Okay, Chase was actually, I think, is with Six Nations with the Arrows.
Oh, okay.
St. Catharines. So they're hosting the Minto Cup this year. So they have really been putting their team together. They had a good team. They've got, the Stainhouse brothers, Ty and the other one. Sorry, Stainhouse family. They also they have Jamison Bucktooth, I think is who you're thinking about. They traded for him. He didn't play last year. He played with the Red Hawks Junior B, and he is really, really good. He was in Orangeville. He's going to play this year in St. Catharines. I was just chatting with him this past week, actually.
Oh, awesome. Yeah. And I mean, speaking of that, so where do you guys have Syracuse ranking? Because we have a lot of Syracuse fans with, so many guys from the Utica, Onondaga area.
I have them in upstate New York.
It's central New York, actually, but that's close.
Sorry. Oh.
Yeah. Well, I mean, it's so weird, the New York map, because there's nothing really going on in upstate New York other than forest and, camping and stuff like that. So I think that when we talk about livable New York, we always think of Buffalo and Rochester as upstate.
Yeah.
Right? As a New York City guy, I always consider anything out of New York City just whatever is up there. But it's
you think of the rest of it as New York in air quotes.
Exactly.
Yeah.
But I digress. I say that Syracuse, from what I've seen, and I am far from an expert, but that offense that they have is unbelievable. Joey Spallina is having another incredible year. That kid is something else. It is really special. But there's so many other guys on that offense that are playing so well. The polls have Notre Dame, who's yet to play a game, as number 1. But Syracuse 3-0 now, looking unstoppable offensively.
Sorry, I just got Josh's comment. Central New York is a part of upstate New York. I win.
And Josh, I guess, is the arbiter of all things.
Yep.
Geography there. So there we go.
He disagrees with me.
But yeah, so Syracuse is going to go deep into the tournament. They're going to be incredibly talented. Excited to, I believe this year's Final Four and Finals is in Philadelphia. I will be making my way down for that one as long as the NLL Finals is not going on. But I expect the Buffalo Bandits will have already won the championship by then. So
should be good to go.
Yeah, exactly.
They'll free you up for that weekend.
Exactly.
We should wrap this one up because we have another segment of predictions to go. And as usual, we're going a little long, but it's been fun. So we're going to take a quick break. We will be back with our predictions on Inside the World of Box Lacrosse here on Blue Squatch Productions. We'll see you in a minute.
Thanks so much for watching. If you'd like to comment real-time live and have your comments appear on the screen and go to Steven Stamp and Adam Levy, consider joining our channel membership. To watch this full episode, click the title card.